candidate. So we have a great community here. None of us are sitting here, don't build here. You can make that R1. Very similar to what you see here, respecting the existing community and harmoniously blend with our homes on 360 degrees around that. That's not being done here. Clearly that was recognized 6 months ago, and this current design hasn't changed a thing. It's the same issue. That's where we are. Thank you for your time.
Okay, next up.
Linda at 1355 Chelmsford.
Hi, I'm Linda Boyette. I reside at 1355 Chelmsford Street, where I've lived for 22 years. I also just bought a second home at 1139 Chelmsford, so I'm well invested in the success of this community. I want to briefly note my background because I think it's relevant to what I'm about to present. I'm a trained research scientist with 30 years of industry experience. I am trained to evaluate data, weigh evidence, flag and mitigate risks before they become a problem. That's the lens that I'm bringing to the board tonight. And for the record, I'm not opposed to development of this land under R1, but I do oppose development under R6. I'm speaking tonight to 5 issues that concern residents of the surrounding neighborhoods, including myself. And the first is an unresolved active oil and gas well risk. So according to ODNR records, the Paul Weber #3 well on this site is producing, despite zero reported production over the past 30 years. ODNR staff flagged the integrity of this discrepancy back in 2010 in writing. No public record shows that the discrepancy was ever resolved. And the well's mechanical integrity, as far as I can tell, was never verified. Active casing pressure at that time was recorded, and the site plans place high-density housing directly adjacent to it. So, to me, this appears to be a safety risk regardless of how the property is developed, that should probably be looked into. Second, we are in an area with high groundwater contamination vulnerability. We saw that years ago with the Steiner Heights development across from Apple Grove. Our neighborhood relies heavily on private drinking water wells, and we're also in an area with shallow water tables, consistently measuring in 15 to 30 feet at the lower drains. This site sits in a high permeability sand and gravel soil with limited natural filtration. ODNR's own drastic mapping classifies this area among the most vulnerable to groundwater contamination in Stark County. So digging, grading, unmanaged stormwater infiltration on a site like this carries direct risk to every private well that's drawing from that same aquifer. Floodplain encroachment and stormwater gaps. A significant portion of the site lies within a FEMA mapped Zone AE floodway tied to that Grubbs ditch. The developer's plans place multiple stormwater basins directly against that floodway and against our neighborhood boundary. But as far as I could tell, the basin design type, discharge points, and drainage modeling were not disclosed. Many of us, especially on the Chelmsford Street, rely on private septic systems, and so we're concerned about stormwater management failures, improper drainage and grading, and the potential for flooding to already established neighborhoods in the lower lying areas. Fourth, there's no genuine community benefit. R6 PUD zoning requires the developer to trade increased density for real public benefit, but the application states that the open space is exclusively for the new homeowners' enjoyment. The site plan shows that open space is fragmented, it's unbuildable wetland and setback buffers, with no public trails or sidewalk access to any of these open spaces. And that's not really a community with benefit, that's a density without trade. Fifth, as far as I can tell, this is inconsistent with the Stark County 2040 Comprehensive Plan. Ohio Law Revised Code Section 519.02 requires township zoning to align with a comprehensive plan. Stark County's 2040 Comprehensive Plan designates this exact parcel as developed suburban and already established and largely built-out area, and furthermore directs new residential growth towards other townships like Jackson and Lake. So approving R6 here would run counter to the county's adopted plan. So tonight, I'd like for you to consider these 5 documented unmitigated risks, as far as I can tell, to public safety, our water supply, our floodplains, our community character, and the county's own planning framework. So for those reasons, I urge you to vote no.
Okay, next.
Lori Shirley, 1340 Stonington.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Lori Shirley, and I reside at 1340 Stonington Road, Northwest of Canton. I'm here speaking this evening as the president of the Pembroke Homeowners Association, and I have a letter that I would like to give to each of the commission members, and I've given a copy already to Christine Monroe and Mr. Koff. And I'd also like to give a copy to Mr. Schellenberger so the letter can become part of the public record for this zoning application. I want to give a quick summary of Pembroke that was developed in the late 1960s and early 70s. And from a land use planning context, what was happening there was a total of 112 houses were built, and there's 4 undeveloped lots. And the average lot size is 20,000 square feet, or half an acre. 56 some years later, the Pembroke subdivision established a inherent residential character for suburban residential development. 8 lots in Pembroke along Chelmsford have a common property line with the southern portion of the Ivy Reserve site. There are also 8 lots along Ivydale Avenue that similarly have common rear property lines with the southern portion of the Ivy Reserve site. Over the course of the months since the original application was submitted in October of 2025, many residents in the vicinity of this site have approached a group of team leaders who have surfaced in opposition to this, and none of them have said that they support this zoning application. In fact, we just saw this evening when when someone was asked to speak in favor of it, there was nobody here doing that. I also want to note that the letter that I have for the record has an attachment to it, which is a petition that has 115 signatures from area residents and homeowners, all in opposition to this revised application. One of the main points that I want to talk about is planning related, and it has to do with the purposes of the R6 PUD zone. And that is, of the 6 purposes, in creating a community within a community. This, an R6 application is supposed to have a layout that is compatible with the adjacent land uses, transportation, and community facilities. This application does none of that. And so this is not a good plan, this is not good planning. And we know what the trustees said at their hearing on February 9th of this year. And they outright unanimously rejected this proposal. I also want to talk a little bit about the purposes of the R6 zone. The general purposes are you have to meet a minimum acreage requirement of 20 acres, and then you can apply for that zone. That's a really low standard. In fact, I think it's way too low to set a standard like that. Could you imagine if somebody else came along with 21 acres and tried to create a community within a community? It's really just a subdivision plan. And so I want to talk a little bit more about the use of the word compatible in the purpose of the 6 purposes of the R6 zone. We heard Mr. Wheeler give his example of how the sanctuary site where the former golf course used to be, that will have a area within it that's a transitional area in relation to the portion above that to the west that will provide for R1 lot size homes. On this plan, you don't see that. We know that the applicant heard us when we spoke at the previous hearings, but even this revised plan doesn't meet the requirement for compatibility because there are lot sizes that, although there's a buffer, there's more open space area separating that and creating that more space. 7,500 square foot lots that are shown on that plan, still in relation to the 8 lots on Ivydale, that is not compatible. And I would ask Mr. Cobb to explain that to us because some of us here are visual learners and maybe he can teach us something how you can make that finding of compatibility. And I would just like to conclude my comments saying that the Homeowners Association Board, we respectfully request that this board unanimously disapprove the R6 application of the site. Thank you for your time, and I'll provide the answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. Next.
I don't know, it has an arrow there like you wanted to talk before the other person, so I guess Paul at 7760 Northern.
Thanks for being here. My name is Paul Badgett. I live at 7760 Northland Avenue, Northwest, just behind Holy Cross Lutheran Church there. My role here is basically, there was another person who was hoping to have attended this meeting for health reasons. They weren't able to make it here, so I'm going to read verbatim a letter that in his place. Okay? This is his letter. My name is Keith Bradley, and I live at 1481 Ivy Street Northwest. I have lived at the corner of Ivy Street and Elmhurst for 42 years. I understand the trip generation report provided by Davie Resource Group has been submitted to the township zoning members. Mind you, these are notoriously challenged, these trip generation reports. This report does not address the concerns to those of us residents living nearby the site that we experience this traffic involvement each and every day. Since the report was based on the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual, it does not include delivery vehicles such as FedEx, Amazon, UPS, trash, lawn, and other service vehicles. This is going to be a huge increase in traffic. It's going to be a huge imposition. Does the manual account for the fact that Ivy Street and Elmhurst Street are both heavily traveled as cut-through routes? I can tell you, living on Northland, that right behind Holy Cross Lutheran Church, when the light turns red there at Market and Ivy, we have people try to cut that light and they rip down our road constantly. Rush hour, I mean, dangerously. That's gonna add a far greater likelihood of accidents. There's also additional road traffic on local roads generated by the preschool located at Holy Cross Lutheran Church. During peak hours, cars will be backed up at lights at Ivy and Market, Elmhurst, and Apple Grove Street, making it difficult for residents to get in and out of driveways and side streets. Could the intersection of Ivy and Elmhurst end up being a three-way stop? The trip generation report shown on table 1, the generation summary, an additional 1,234 trips will be generated during the weekday if the R6 zoning is approved. I can't imagine how the existing roads, Ivy Street and Elmhurst, would be able to handle these additional trips for the new residents at the R6 development. If the township trustees approve this zoning request, will Ivy Street and Elmhurst have to be widened and improved to be able to handle such additional trips? If the answer is yes, who fits the bills for those improvements? Motorists speed up and down Elmhurst, making it unsafe to walk or ride a bike. Will the speed limit on north of Ivy Street be lowered to 35 miles per hour? Will the speed limit on Ivy be reduced to 25 miles per hour? During the winter months, if there is a heavy snowfall, Ivy Street is reduced to one lane due to a bank along the field of the south side of Ivy Street. Now, I brought this up at the last hearing. John Sabo agreed. These cul-de-sacs, they're nightmares. When we brought up the aspect of snow removal, where are they going to push all that snow in those cul-de-sacs? They are hard pressed and challenged. That road crew, I can tell you, I've seen even contractors. John Sabo made it pretty clear he is not a fan of these cul-de-sacs. They pose challenges. The applicant's development does not indicate if the bank will be removed for the development. By allowing 106 houses at the Ivy Reserve site, the current residents in this area will lose the large lot residential feel to our neighborhood, which is a big reason many of us have chosen to live here. This will significantly decrease our quality of life. Thanks.
Lynn Hill, 1265 Danbury.
Hi, my name is Lynn Hill. I live at 1265 Danbury Road Northwest. I'm also living in the, not connecting adjacent to this, but I'm in the Pembroke neighborhood. I'm the treasurer for the, on the board of the Pembroke Homeowners Association. I don't want to repeat what everyone has said here. Everyone has said some wonderful things, just, you know, highlighting the 7,500 square feet against a 25,000 to 35,000 square feet neighborhood doesn't make sense. We talked about how the different ways that other communities have approached this. We talked about the 30%, the minimum of 30% open space that is supposed to be used here. And you can see a big dark cloud there going all the way through the middle of that. A lot of it's a swamp area. If you talk to anybody that lives on Elm Creek, they have a lot of flooding today without even putting anything here.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of issues surrounding this property. It doesn't fit the compatibility, and when you think about the 59 acres and a minimum of 30% is supposed to be recreational open, you can't get to any of it. It's not a path, it's not a sidewalk. You take the 59, 30% of that, you get down to 41 acres. Now you still gotta talk about the roads, you gotta talk about sidewalks, and you keep dividing that down. You get to talk about what Pete had mentioned, about, how much is really the density there, or how much is really buildable on this property. I can show you any kind of picture also and show you that I can fit a number of houses in a plot, in a plan. So I just want to kind of reiterate those things and just to say, we're here and we're not backing down. As many times as this application goes up, we're going to do it. So I'll tell you, I oppose the R6. Thank you.
Chuck, we're gonna break for a few minutes.
Okay.
People can take pause and use the facilities or whatever.
Okay.
It's about 10 after 15? 17? 17.
All right.
Thank you very much, John, on behalf of senior citizens everywhere.
If you would need the restrooms, they are out to the left. You can go out that door or straight out there.